Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to the main talk with your host, the main man, Razviel Ramos, and today I'm going to be interviewing the man, the myth, the legend, Rowdy C.
Well, I don't know how much legend is up to that, but I appreciate the mention.
All right, Rowdy, let's get on with the interview. How did you get started in the reviewing game?
Oh, probably like a lot of people did. We just started up about on 2008, 2000 from 2008 to 2010. I started watching, a bunch of the more prevalent internet reviewers that were going on at the time. Some of which have kind of fallen out of grace in recent years. So maybe I might not actually mention them by name, but just the fact that started watching them and got the idea that maybe I could do something like this. The biggest challenge for it was one, how I was able to produce such content, and two, what exact subject I was going to do that wouldn't make me look just like an absolute total copycat. I just eventually got the idea that I've been a huge connoisseur of television shows and programs basically my entire life. So at first I got the idea that, well, if I was ever going to review something, TV shows would probably be it. And then it just came to a point where I learned how to use the webcam on my own laptop and the movie editing software programs that came with it. And once I got control, it started with basically when I finally got a hold of a gee, it's escaping my words right now, but basically a DVD to digital converter, kind of a video capture device card is basically what it was. Once I got my hand on a video capture card that I was originally going to use just to transfer old VHS recordings onto digital files, I realized, maybe I might be able to do this to produce those videos as well, and one thing just led to another, and that's what led to my first video I managed to complete back in February of 2010 with my first TV trash review of Stripperella.
All right, let's also, because I actually do a reviewing show called Unknown Kid Shows,
Mm-hmm.
and you were my inspiration for that because I would tackle very awkward and bad kid shows that I don't cover cartoons on my show.
Mm-hmm.
The first show I did was Shusha, and I made fun of her because she loves furries a lot.
Yeah, I actually have, well, I have reviewed that show before. Well, I have, but I haven't. To be perfectly honest, I don't know if you watched that episode, but that I actually took care of that. Reviewed that show in particular back when I was doing my Rowdy Lost arc. Back around, I think that was, I guess, 2016. The whole deal was that the Rowdy character had basically disappeared. And I was actually able to enlist the aid of the hardcore kid, Brandon Nichols, to actually do the review itself of that. If anyone wants to check that out, hopefully it's available on my site, rowdyc.com, and other locations as well, if anyone has been able to do that.
So, how do you pick your shows?
It's just it started with me knowing a bunch of obscure and not necessarily good shows that I'd watched in my youth, stuff like Stripperella, Unhappily Ever After, learning about shows like Galactica 1980, and it's basically just you hear stuff. Now it's mostly stuff where other people give me suggestions and I say, oh yeah, I'm probably gonna have to look at that someday. In addition to, I scanned websites like TV Tropes and the stuff to see what some really bad stuff that maybe other people have known about. You just do a lot of research and finding out what all has been out there. Definitely, like I said, obscure stuff is what I really like to cover. Stuff that a lot of people don't necessarily know about, where good or bad, I could maybe be educating people on some stuff that they might not necessarily have heard of at the beginning.
So, I want to bring up something. I'm sorry, I'm stuttering here.
Sure thing.
Uh, I wanted to bring up because I was a fan of your show, Candid with Chris, and one of my favorite episodes was the Spoonie One controversy, and you went into detail onto that show. Also, I was surprised you didn't mention the debacle that happened with Channel Awesome. You know, when half of the people just started to leave.
There's kind of a reason for that. Yeah, like I said, I did start those Candid with Chris episodes years ago when I felt the need to talk about stuff that was separate from the reviews and possible. And I know I did bring up just how Noah Antweiler had been one of my big inspirations, and I still do think that deep down he's not a bad person at heart. He just got beaten down by a lot of stuff that happens over the internet. There is kind of a reason why I don't. I have when I will say this when the whole things with the Google documents and all the revelations of what was going on with that guy with the glasses basically came to light. It was
now known as Channel Awesome.
yeah, yes, definitely. I basically made a decision that look, it's there's a lot of controversial stuff going on here, and what gets to me is there's some stuff that happened. It's almost like I saw this kind of building up, so to speak. Like I had a suspicious feeling that maybe some things were going on back there with the management that a lot of people didn't want hoped wasn't going to happen, but at the same time, I'm just gonna say without naming names, I think there was some contributors there that they hadn't been. Let's just say they weren't as as very nice and good people to certain other internet reviewers that were never part of Channel Awesome. Their attitudes toward non-Channel Awesome reviewers wasn't that much better than how they've been how the likes of Doug Walker and the Machauds were towards their own employees. And I just made a decision that, you know what, it's a point where if I say anything regarding this, I'm gonna get flack and pushback one way or the other. And it was just a situation where I decided, really all I can do is focus on my own work and try to be the best reviewer and best person to other people, fans and colleagues, as good a person to them as I can possibly be. And that's really all I could really hope for. It was just a situation where I didn't think I was going to do any good and might be and maybe I might end up just causing more trouble for myself if I tried to get into that. It's kind of another reason why I've been trying more and more over these years to stop talking about politics as well. I'm sure that anybody who's followed me on Facebook and Twitter for the longest time knows that while I've tried to keep politics out of my own videos, I have used social media platforms to vent some of my social and political opinions, and now I'm trying my best to not do that as often because, like I said, it seems like it only leads to trouble and stuff I have to deal with, and all I want to, and it's just come to a point where I realized eventually that what I want to do with my life, more than anything else, is entertain and make people happy. And just, if it just tells me that maybe I need to get out of those socio-political issues just so I could focus more on, because, like I said, that just seems to bring nothing but misery. You fight for people you care for, you show support for people you care for, friends and colleagues and family and you do your best to try to be the best person you can be with them. But from a personal, political, professional standpoint, it's just a feeling that the best thing I can do to make the world a better place is just to keep trying to make my videos and trying to make people as happy as I can.
Yeah, I understand because I still get flack from like Pretty Little Liar fans because I used to do a show called Pretty Little Liar Corners under my character name RedZX4, which is now owned by Mental Crasher. I would do wrestling references. In one episode, I said, Spencer, I mean, not Spencer, Ezra, what you're going to do when Arya comes after you, brother. And I got flack from the whole PLL community saying that you're not allowed to mention references in PLL when you talk about Pretty Little Liars.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm over here looking at them like, it's my show. I can do whatever the hell I want.
Right, yeah. I I kind of understand that.
And I still, to this day, I'm still getting flack because I defended Home Alone 6.
Oh yeah, yeah. Believe me, I'm actually surprised that haven't gotten as much flack for the fact that my very first second ever review was really giving a hard time to Veronica Mars. Of course, I still probably
Hmm.
get some flack for some of my takes on South Park and whatnot, and especially a lot of people don't like the fact that I actually praised the finale of How I Met Your Mother.
Wow. Yeah, because you have those fans that they want you to act a certain way when you talk about a certain show.
It's definitely,
They,
yeah. One thing I try to say, I've always tried to do is give my most honest opinion on it as possible. I think the only time I think I really kind of betrayed myself in that category was all the way back when I reviewed the Boondocks, where I think personally that show might not have been as bad as I made it out to be in the video itself, but there was kind of a purpose toward doing that just because of the fact that I was portraying my character at that time as basically trying to get a little full of himself and trying to be a bit more arrogant. And it was a build up for him trying to come back down to earth when, for the 100th TV Trash, he dared review something he liked that might not necessarily be that good, which was Ally McBeal.
yeah, I understand that too, because a lot of people know that I do not like the movie Somewhere in Time, and I criticize that movie, and but yet I have rabid fanboys and fangirls saying, "Oh, you're stupid, you're dumb. It's a great movie." It's like it's about a guy who goes back in time and bangs a woman in 1912. It's the dumbest premise out there.
I think I've heard of that movie, and I think I actually made a joke comment once, and I wonder if it was if that movie was the inspiration for the film within a film, Time After Time, from the movie America's Sweethearts. I don't know if you've seen that movie.
No.
Yeah, Julia Roberts, I think Catherine Zeta-Jones, Billy Crystal, and even Christopher Walken are all in it. It's kind of a so bad it's good movie for me, in my own regards, as far as that goes.
All right, so moving on from that, I wanted to know, how did you get into Reviewers Unknown and then Mannix Express?
Yeah, that's the whole thing. Yeah, I mean, it just came to a point where once, Ozzy Arcane, as they were known at the time, just sent me an invite to, join the Reviewers Unknown website. However, once I'm actually more proud of the fact that I began mentioning, when I began making references and mentions to the reviewer who used to be known as the comic strip critic, that supposedly led to him getting an invite to Reviewers Unknown. That's actually something I'm pretty proud of. But then, of course, came 2014, and that was the year of the second wave of what was known as the Blipocalypse, when the website Blip TV just kept dropping channels left and right, and we kind of all knew the writing was on the wall. In 2014, my channel got the axe from Blip's website, and at the same time, so many other people, their accounts were getting terminated as well, that was a time in which Ozzy and the people who were running Reviewers Unknown just said, it's not worth running the website anymore. And to be honest, it was at that exact time I had actually just completed the Dark Rowdy saga at that point, and if my account got terminated, I think just a few days after I posted the conclusion of that arc with the Rainbow Bright review. And at the moment, I really didn't know if I was going to be able to keep the show going on. But it was literally just a few days after the termination came that James Daniel Walsh contacted me and gave me the invite not just to only join the Manic Expression website, but use the Manic Expression's own account channel of what was known as Springboard at the time. And that basically first gave me the first opportunity to get the show back in operation. And so I first joined their Springboard account. I also ended up setting up my own account on Dailymotion. That thing ended up stolen, believe it or not. But it was all that got me at that time. Like I said, at the time in the summer of 2014, I was not sure without Blip if I'd be able to continue TV Trash and the show going. But ever since then, it kind of motivated me to, one way or another. I'm on Vimeo right now, and now I'm wondering how much longer that's going to last because of the stuff they're doing. But, if I have to just resolve to sharing videos via my OneDrive account, I'll do that. I'm going to do whatever it takes to keep this show going for as long as I want to make it.
And let's talk about Springboard a little bit because that's kind of interesting. I tried to sign up for there, and how do you do that? Is it still around?
For all I know, it's not around anymore. I think there is just so many of those other video sharing sites that have just just faded out of existence. We're talking not only Blip TV, but I'm pretty sure Springboard, Screen Wave is no longer around. Was it Zipcast definitely shut down. VidMe used to be there. They're not around anymore. There's so many of them that just right now I think the only other video sharing website that wants to be something like YouTube that's still technically in operation, it's escaping me right now, but it's BitChute is the one, which of course I'm still trying to avoid getting a part of that just because of kind of its reputation of being an alt-right video posting website and whatnot. Like I said, I am on Vimeo, and I think Vimeo is going to stay in operation because it is you do have to pay for extended usage of their of uploading videos and whatnot. But at the same time, they basically said we don't want to be a YouTube clone, and that's one of the big reasons why they've actually been more or less encouraging people to delete their videos from their website by threatening to charge them more than they can afford. I know Linkara had that problem, and that's why he had to delete the old original copies of his History of Power Rangers reviews. They were used to be up on that site alone, but now he just took them down because he got told, yo, you have to reduce your amount of storage space. We're going to jack up your rates so much. So it is very, I'm going to say this, it is very difficult nowadays to try to find another website that's not going to be have as much draconian policies as far as trying to just deal with the DMCA as much as simply and worklessly as possible, if that's the term to use, as YouTube does. Believe me, I've known for years the many problems YouTube has, and that's the number one reason why, almost from the beginning, I've said I've never relied on YouTube to be the primary host for at least my review videos. And that's why I say, look, if worse comes to worse, I will just put all my stuff in my OneDrive and link to there via my own website, if that's the only thing I can do. Some people still use stuff like Dailymotion. I had problems with that, so I haven't gone back to them since. But you know what? It's just a sense of, I'm going to do whatever it takes, and I just hope that a lot of my colleagues who've done good work, probably better work than me in some areas, will continue to find ways to produce their own content so long as they want to do it.
Also, I want to bring up something else before we end the interview. I want to bring up the incident between you and A. Salieri, because I think A. Salieri went too far when he mocked you.
You know, A. Salary, I think he's a good person at heart. He sometimes gets a little too far on some of his ridicule and stuff. Believe me, I've seen other people that I think are far worse than him, to be perfectly honest. I mean, there's a reason. Yep. There's a reason I got Razor Fist blocked by me. He blocked me on Twitter because I think that's a guy who really tries to be that creepy edgelord guy who could dish it out but can't take it. I mean, guys like Blue Magus who kind of got on my bad side and why I don't talk to them anymore. Like I said, I know you're probably more likely talking about that brief reference to him and a few other guys that I made at the opener to my Honey, I Shrunk the Kids review, and I was just rolling off names off the top of my head that at least my character or me and personally and myself may have had some run-ins back before and whatnot, and I was just posting them. I really had no idea that was going to get back to A. Salary, to be perfectly honest. I wasn't even aware of what he or Blackface Kermit were doing at this time, and just, you know, we talked about it over Twitter and whatnot, and I think we managed to settle things out. I mean, like I said, I don't think he's that bad of a person. Maybe some of the stuff he says gets on his nerves, but you know, you can't please everybody. But at the very least, I really don't wish him any ill will, especially as far as some other people who actually have had some more difficult issues were. And maybe I'd have issues with more people if I ended up being more popular than as popular as some of those other internet reviewers that inspired me to do this. Maybe it's kind of a bit of luck that I've never become as popular as some of the bigger internet reviewers, so I don't have to deal with as many detractors and enemies, so to speak.
All right. Before again, we will end this little interview. I want to mention the fact that the YouTube controversy. I ran around Twitter one time, and I called Susan Wojcicki the Vince Russo of YouTube, as in she makes bad decisions. What are your thoughts on that?
Susan Wojcicki, that is, I'm trying to remember that foot. I'm going to, I first heard that name, but for some reason I thought of a politician. That might not be the case. Is that, I'm trying to
She's the
remember,
CEO of YouTube.
CEO of YouTube. Yeah, well, here's my ultimate take on YouTube. They're kind of in a no-win situation. Believe me, there's a lot of stuff they do that I don't like. But one thing I keep trying to think about is, they're under the thumbscrews of the major studios. Like, no matter what they do, especially if they did less than what they do, let's face it, groups like Paramount and Disney and Warner would continue to keep suing them left and right all the time. And it's just a situation where, really, to what, they would have to do a lot. And even I'll say, the stuff they would have to do to be completely fair with how the system is set up right now, even for a major company like Google, it might be a lot to ask them to deal with. The number one problem, this is it. Look, no matter what YouTube or anyone else does, I'm gonna have to get political here, unfortunately, but the number one problem is the DMCA. There has got to be, the only way we can ever go back to avoid dealing with stuff like this and stuff like that YouTube has to do is there's got to be major reform of the DMCA to make it a lot more fair and not something that major studios like Warner and Disney and Viacom Paramount, that they can't continue to abuse that for their own purposes.
Yeah, because I did see where the fair use, and I saw your response to that video, and I think the only way is a class action lawsuit because they're screwing over on small content creators who are trying to become the next best thing, but they can't because we have a woman who clearly just plays favorites with the people she loves.
Yeah, like I said, it's a whole difficult situation where it's the one thing I will say is with YouTube, it's kind of a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation. Do they face the backlash of small creators like us, or do they face the backlash of major studios? And unfortunately, like, the major studios have the money and the clout to actually fight back with them, and too many small creators don't, so it's a very difficult situation. A class action lawsuit, perhaps, like, maybe that's what I said years ago, I don't 100% remember, but like I said, I think ultimately going after YouTube might not be the best situation. The best situation has to be pushing for major congressional reform of the DMCA itself. That is the ultimate source of all the problems small creators like us have to deal with.
All right, thank you, Rowdy. Before we end this, I have a request for a future TV trash episode for you.
Well, I have a big list already, but I'll definitely want to keep that in mind and maybe put it on the list if possible.
Have you ever saw the movie #Reality High on Netflix?
That does not occur. That's not occurring to me at the right now. To be perfectly honest, like, I actually discontinued my Netflix account a few months ago, and Netflix online, like, I will say this: shows that are exclusive to streaming right now, let's put it that way, is not something of a priority I'm making as of right now, just because I still have so many other shows that were on terrestrial TV that I would love to cover. And, like, maybe one day, maybe that might be, if the time comes that I decide to put the actual TV trash to an end, maybe I might make a follow-up show devoted to online streaming shows, because that definitely is the future. I won't deny that. Absolutely. So there
Yeah.
definitely probably will come a time when I'll start reviewing shows that were made exclusively for streaming. All I can unfortunately tell you is I don't know when that time may come at this moment.
Hmm. All right. Thank you, Rowdy, for being on the main talk. Um, and best wishes to your show and many more to come.
Stay rowdy, my friends.